Hello, here is the video I promised about why I'm dropping out of college. Before I start talking about this, I just want to say, I'm sorry if any of this video comes across as kind of unorganized or if I stumble over my words a little bit. I have notes in front of me, but shit happens and I want it to seem mostly conversational, so I want to talk mostly off top. But yeah, so for those of you who don't know, I am a visual artist, and I plan on being for the rest of my life. Within the past year-ish, pretty much most of my stuff has been abstract and based on music, and it's cool and a great time and I love it. If you're interested in seeing any of my work, you can just go to my website. Any of it's for sale if you want it. I'm just why not, throw in a little self-promo, since, if you clicked on this video, you're probably at least mildly interested, and, I could use it, so, yeah. However, I'm making the decision to drop out of art school, 2 years in, and I came to this conclusion, a little bit over a week ago, and to be honest with you, every day that goes by, I feel a little bit better about the fact that I'm doing this, and just, feel like there's no other, I can't not do this. I have to do this. And I've seen a few, other videos regarding this exact matter, and I thought, why not just put my own 2 cents in, because I can obviously vouch for my experience here and feel like I have a lot to say on it. So, yeah. But before I talk about, art school, here's the thing about college, just in general, at least in the place where I'm from, and this is honestly, the biggest component to why I'm doing this. If you grew up in a family like mine, you were basically just expected to go to college right out of high school, no questions asked. And if I'm being completely honest with you, as a senior in high school, I was a bit conflicted. I was I don't really know what I want to do in college yet. I feel like it might make sense to take a year off, just figure out what the hell I'm doing, what I want a job in. And the other half of me was kind of well, I was the art kid in high school, art jobs exist, I think I'm a pretty driven person, I'll figure it out when I go to art school, right? But the thing is, I was never really given the option to make that decision for myself or, encouraged to really think about it, because my parents just said, you gotta go to college immediately, you're not gonna take a year off, blah, blah, blah. No, I think I'm ever, gonna bring up my parents again for the rest of this video, and, after hearing all the points that I'm about to repeat to you, they're helping me, comfortably slip out of college, and I'm very grateful for them and their help throughout this entire process, and I really, don't want it to seem like I'm attacking them at all, but they said it was because they were afraid that I would never be motivated enough to go back to school, and, I know a lot of people think like this, and at the time I didn't really question it much. I just was shit, it's another thing they won't let me do, that's annoying. I didn't, really think about how fucked up it is to think that way, because if you get a job and you're never motivated enough to go back to school, in a sense you've kind of cheated the system, because you're happy enough with your life that you don't feel any major change is necessary. Assuming you're the type of person who just wants to be happy and would make the changes necessary to get there. And the thing is, that decision is coming from a more rational brain who knows how the real world functions to an extent and has already had to work a job to pay the bills. It's not a 17-year-old high school student who's never been exposed to any of that, or honest job prospects in their field. It's just just doesn't make sense to me. And before I talk about my actual experience in college, I'm going to talk about why I know I don't want to be where I would be post-graduation, or have a job as a graphic designer, and I'm not interested in majoring in anything else here. I just feel that's just more relevant to why I'm dropping out, since ultimately it's about where I'm trying to go and not where I am with stress and classes and workload in the current moment. So first of all, I just don't want the debt that it would cost me to stay here. I wouldn't have an astronomical or unmanageable amount of it, but it still does mean that I would be just locked into a job that I likely won't want after I graduate to pay off the loans that I have. And for those of you who don't know, I live in New York City, and it would mean that post-graduation I'd have to stay in the same stressful, expensive, corporation-run city, most likely, because the jobs here for it pay better and there are more of them. And that's like roughly 5 years in a lifestyle that I think realistically I would be miserable in. It's not off the table that like once I leave I might decide to go somewhere cheaper to finish this degree or like get a degree in something else, but like for now I'm very unsure about like what I want to major in, and honestly just mentally I can't handle it for this next semester at least. And I don't want a design job, right? Because like forcing myself to be creative to solve a problem that I don't feel fully 100% invested in, acting like I do, collaborating with people whose styles I might not like, to sell a product I could not give one fuck about just feels disgusting. Like, much more disgusting than just like working a straightforward, quote unquote, shitty job temporarily until I figure out what I actually want. And still, honest to God, I think I would enjoy being like a barista or a waitress just for the rest of my life more than I would a designer for a company. Like, generally, I am a very straightforward person in almost every aspect of my life except in art, where I prefer to just let loose, go fucking wild, and I'd much rather keep the two separate than like use my talents for something that I just don't care about and have it fuck up my thought process and how I approach this whole thing. Yeah, and like I know that there's room to grow in this field and like maybe do something a bit cooler, but I really passionately do not want the entry level position, and it would still be like years and years before I could even get anything that's vaguely relevant to my real values and interests, and even then, it'll never like hit the nail on the dot. I'll still be limited, and I just don't want that. And I mean, like, to be fair, I like design, like, I do. Like anyone else, I have personal aesthetics I'm drawn to, and like typefaces I like, and all that. And there's a methodology to it that, in the beginning, was decently fascinating for me to learn, just because I was curious, and like, creativity can go into it. But I would never like choose voluntarily to do design over painting. I just kind of see it as something I could like mildly incorporate into my work from time to time. I'm just very worn out by trying to make it a full-time thing. And obviously still there is like a huge difference between graphic design that I'm sort of interested in and like shit that I just would likely actually be designing for companies. Like, and I'm really not interested in majoring in anything else here. That's really like the closest thing to what I like other than painting, which is mostly just made up of people who want to sell their paintings, and I don't think I want to go in debt to major in painting. Like, that does not make sense to me. So yeah, I mean, I guess I just want to go with this whole art thing independently, like, even if I get nowhere with it, just because, like, I don't know, like, hearing music I enjoy and making paintings and, like, discussing new albums is just the type of shit that's life-affirming to me, and lending all that to some just, like, fucking random corporate business will always totally erase why I love it. And honestly, like, I'm not saying this to try to sound humble, but I'm more excited about working a job being at the bottom of society than I am just, like, acting like I'm hot shit at this fancy art school in Brooklyn with this pretentious air around it. Like, I'm definitely not saying that everyone who goes here is pretentious, but there is a weird energy to it that you can't deny, and applying for jobs that feel just as stiff and even, like, sketchy a lot of the time in the New York area just sucks. Like, so many internships don't pay you or could even be with companies just unqualified to teach you anything. Like, yeah, it's just not ideal. So I want to change how I approach this regardless, like, even if I do this back home. Yeah, so now I want to talk about, I guess, my experience at this school, just existing, trying to make stuff. So I went to college for 2 years here, right? And disclaimer, like, I'm not here to trash Pratt, okay? Or, like, be one of those people that's like, do not ever go to art school. You will never get a job, and you will waste your money and learn nothing and be, like, miserable forever. Like, if you're one of those people who just, like, leaves 1-star Yelp reviews for this school just because, like, you're mad that people are pursuing something that you never had the money or, like, the guts or opportunity to, and you tell everyone that, like, no matter what, it's gonna be absolute shit, just get out. Like, I do, like, think that the school is kind of flawed, but so are most all colleges, and honestly, like, a lot of driven artists and cool professors go here, and I'm not advising you against going here if you know it's what you want and you can afford to go. You get scholarships, like maybe your parents are helping you, etc. For an art school, you're getting like a pretty good quality education. Like the sense of drive and ambition from the students is definitely there. I'd say it's the same for most of the professors. You're gonna be given fair advice and critiques, but I do think some parts of the way that it's set up is just not personally like for me. Like for one, this college, along with a lot of other colleges, does that shady thing where they force you to take classes that are just irrelevant to what you're actually going to be doing post-graduation, or like how you feel about the art you're making for yourself. I mean, for example, like the associate's degree for graphic design here is basically just the bachelor's without the classes that are definitely bullshit fluff, so I'm pretty upset that I didn't do that. But yeah, so like everyone's forced to take the same first year here, and I can honestly tell you that only like 2 of the 5 of those classes that I took genuinely taught me something that I could either use professionally or for myself, and only one of them helped me like actually progress as the artist I want to be. Getting into sophomore year, none of it's helped my personal work, and I would say like 2/3 of it probably would theoretically help me professionally, but like again, not really interested in that anymore, and I do think that the other third has just been useless, so that's not cool. Like, part of me understands being forced to try a lot of different things that you're unfamiliar with. Like, being forced to think in different ways and work in new mediums can be really beneficial. It might suck in the moment, but in the end, there's a chance it'll like help you progress as an artist and just open your mind up to the possibilities out there, so you don't keep just reusing the same ideas or mediums over and over again. But honestly, it's just still way too broad to work, like especially for a person like me who's really interested in a specific niche thing like abstract painting and occasional minimalist design that's really personal and emotional and just based on 1 or 2 concepts that I like to just expand on. And for the record, like, I'm not able to do any of that for class unless I just really fucking twist the prompt around my own way. And even then, I feel really awkwardly limited by the guidelines. And, I mean, you're just paying so much fucking money to be here, and these are, like, the 4 years where you don't have to be in the job market yet, so I'd like to feel at least, like, somewhat fulfilled by it, you know, but I just don't feel that way at all. Another thing, though, which I promise you, just every single person who goes to art school can vouch for, is that coming from an extremely driven person, the workload is ridiculous. Like, it means that school has to be your entire life, unless you just, like, I don't know, don't have the desire to make anything for yourself, or you don't have friends, or don't have the desire to just relax ever. And even if those things are true, like, you can't slip up ever, or you'll pay for it. Like, the next 3 days are gonna be hell. Like, everyone's depressed, everyone's dying. I have yet to meet one person who isn't, and I mean that. I know, like, part of that is just college in general, but again, I figured out I don't even want the job I'm here to get. So how does making myself suffer through this and just slack on my personal artistic development really make sense? Like, it's just totally suffocating my ability to be creative for myself or do anything independently. And a huge fucking flaw in this whole thing too that I feel really strongly about is the fact that you're not given nearly enough time to make something that you're actually genuinely proud of for projects, like, unless you just sacrifice your personal health or just kill yourself over it. And then oftentimes you have to present it in a critique and talk about it like you're proud of it and listen to people tell you the shit that you already know is wrong with it that like you would have fixed if you had time. Like, I really respect the fact that this school and just art schools are full of critical thinkers that want to get better and have standards for their work. I think that's absolutely lovely, but I don't really think I'm learning from most of what I'm told here, because I do think I'm given fair feedback, but I think it's almost all shit that I could have pointed out and fixed myself had I had time. If, however, you know what you're getting yourself into and genuinely want to work in a professional art field of some sort as a job and don't have any other interests, this isn't a bad place to go, and I wouldn't just, like, advise you against the concept entirely, but do keep the fact that if you're gonna have debt, it's gonna lock you into the job that you have in mind. And please, please, please use Rate My Professors to, like, weed out who's legit and who isn't, because if you are stuck with a professor that sucks, you're probably gonna suffer for the rest of the semester. But if you do get stuck in that situation and you can tell that they're just full of shit, like, obviously you do not have to take their advice, nor do you have to take anyone's advice here, really. But you'll learn who you do and don't see eye to eye with, and then you can go from there. So, yeah, I mean, a good professor that you connect with can be a godsend and ultimately what saves the experience. Like, if you're able to find good, like, friends that you can collaborate with, that can also, like, help the experience be a lot better, too. So, yeah, like, shout out to my favorite professor, actually, from freshman year, because it's been really nice to talk to this woman just about my creative process and have her actually, like, want me to be the best artist I can be and feel that mutual respect and, like, have a person to look up to. It's honestly gotten me through a lot, and I can full-heartedly say, like, my work and thought process would be very different had I not taken her class, but it's just a shame that I've had to, like, endure so much else that I don't really feel like has helped me in the same way. So, yeah, I think that's really all I have to say regarding this. If you, like, have any specific questions for me about, like, my experience at Pratt, I guess I didn't mention that I go to Pratt, I don't think, but yeah, that's where I go, and I think it's again pretty good for an art school. But yeah, if you have, like, any other questions about the experience or just, like, my thoughts on anything else about this topic, feel free to just, like, leave a comment, maybe DM me on Twitter or something. I'm more than happy to talk to you about it. So yeah, thank you for sitting through this if you did, and yeah, I hope you have a great day. Thank you.